Okay, I'm resuming the flags tutorial, and just to remind you where we've got to, we have this code here, which is JavaScript, jQuery, JavaScript, which creates this web page, and it's got one country and one flag. The next part of the tutorial is to have a whole bunch of countries. We want Brazil, France, and Greece, and happily we happen to have the flags of Greece and what's the other one? Brazil. They're there as well. So I want to make a page look much more like that. And so what I'm going to do, well, let's take, these are the instructions to put France in place. And I'm just going to copy them and try and do the same thing for Brazil and Greece. Okay, so that's France. Let's change France to Brazil. So that's Brazil, and that's Brazil, and that's Brazil. And instead of FR, we'll do BR, and instead of France, we'll say Brazil. And we'll do the same thing for Greece. So copy those 4 lines, that phrase there, it says create a div. This one's going to be called Greece. Just replacing the text here. So the country is called Greece, and the flag is GR. So that should create the 3 flags. Where's my web page? Here it is. So reload that. So I've got France, I've got Brazil, I've got Greece. It doesn't look quite like it does in the picture. So I'm going to apply some CSS rules to make this to make it look more like this. Okay, and it's giving me some clues here. The top level divs appear side by side, and with the borders and padding, you'll need the following CSS for the element body angle div. Well, notice that I put all of my nodes in the document before I started applying CSS. Now I want to start applying CSS to try and make these things line up like that. Okay. All right, one thing I want a border around this thing here is a div, and inside it's got a div and an image, and that image has got a grey border. You can just see it. So I have the grey border. I've got a whole div containing a div. What I want is a black border just around this outer div. I'm going to try this rule here. I'm going to try and apply a CSS rule. So I'm going to say all divs from now on, they're all going to have a thick border, a black border. So I'll say border is solid and black and thin. Okay, not this thin. Okay, so every div in my document is going to have a black border. Save that and reload. This is kind of typical of what happens a lot in CSS. It's done what I wanted, but it's done more than what I wanted. So this div around France, that's fine. It's got a border, but it's also put a border around this inner div. If we look at the structure here, inspect the element. I'm going to pop this thing out. Okay. So here is, let's try that again. I'm trying to move this thing down so I can see what's going on. This is me inspecting it. There's 3 divs. That's the French one, that's the Brazilian one, and that's the Greek one. Here's the French div, and inside it's got a div and an image. And what's happened is a border's been put around the whole thing, and also a border's been put around that thing there as well. I just want the border around the main one, the big one. And my rule is being it's not being sufficiently discriminating. It's putting a border around every single div, that one and this one. If I want the rule only to apply to this div here, one way to do that is to find something special about that div and put that in the rule. One special thing about this div and this div and this div is that they are all direct descendants of a body. They're the top level div nodes. These ones here, this is a div inside a div, and so this rule here, div space div, that applies to this div and this div, but it doesn't apply to the outer div. This outer div here is special because it's a direct descendant of the body. So if I say body arrow, that means that border will only apply to one of them. Reload. Okay, we can see that's working there. As a general rule, if you include a border, you should always include some padding. Can you see how horrible it looks when you've got the image right up against the border with no gap? So padding, I'm hoping, is one of the requirements there. Padding 24. Let's put that rule in. Copy that. And I'm going to go to the key value pair business, which means that the key and value are separated by a colon. I don't need quotes around that. So that's set the border. The other property I want is padding. So I want padding, and the padding I think was 24 pixels. Let's line this stuff up. So the border is solid, thin and black. The padding is 24 pixels, and that's only being applied to the outermost div. Reload. Okay, it's looking better already. Display inline block and margin is 1ex. Let's do those one at a time. So if I put in a margin, that'll separate out these blocks. You can see this is the div for France, this is the div for Brazil, and there's no space between them. I want there to be a space between these two things. So that's what margin does. So let's introduce a margin. Margin is 1ex, was it? What were we told to do? 1ex. 1ex is a measure that I quite like. It is the width or possibly the height of the x character. Okay, you can see we've got a margin here. It's also put a margin here and margin here. These things are separated now by the width of an x character. What else we got? So width is 260. So this is the width of the whole thing. The width of that thing. We're going to make that 260. So width is not 260, it was 206. I say one thing and I do something else. I hope you can cope with that. Save that, reload, 206. That's looking good. Okay, but really I want these things next to each other. So I've set the width, and notice now we had centering. So centering before, when it was centering, it was trying to center it across the whole page. Now it's centering it across its parent. And so this text here, France, is being centered with respect to that border there. As I make this bigger and smaller, that's not moving. What I really want though is these things to wrap. So I want Brazil to come up here and I want Greece to come up there if there's room for it, and if not, it'll flow down to there. So I want these things to wrap. It's like these things are divs, and divs are block level elements, but I want them to kind of behave like inline elements, and inline elements will do that wrapping thing where it'll put this thing next to that thing and it'll flow over if necessary. And the way you do that is it's either display or position, and it is display inline block. So I say display is inline block. Okay, now in normal CSS you're allowed to do that kind of stuff, but in JavaScript you can't have a minus there. So I have to quote this thing. I'd have to quote it anyway. I didn't quote that because it was a number. Save that, reload, and we can see the stuff is flowing, and if there's room for it, Greece will pop up onto the same line. And if there isn't room for it, then Greece will flow down onto the next line. So that's just how I want it to look. Just see if I've missed any lines. I've done the margin, I've done the width, I've done the border. Fantastic, and it's looking like it should. Yep, pretty smug about that. My border should be 2 pixels, and I've said thin. Let's say 2 pixels. Do as you're told. 2 pixels. Save. Reload. There you go, those 2 pixels, they mattered. What's the next thing to do? Okay, right. Now I want to add South Africa, and that would be a real pain. I really don't like this code. What I did was copy and pasted. That was France, and this is Brazil, and this is Greece, and if I want to do South Africa, I'd have to have another block like that, and it just offends me. I don't want to, as a programmer, I don't want to be copying and pasting like that. I'm going to try and generalize this pattern. I noticed that France and Brazil are exactly the same, except that this one's got the text France and this one has the text Brazil, and this one has the fr.gif and this has the br.gif. So what I want to do is to generalize that pattern, and I'm going to take this C-list here, which expresses that generality. So C-list here. Oh, that didn't work. I just wanted to indent that. This is a list of pairs, and it expresses what these countries have in common. What I want to do is to generalize this rule. So these BR and FGR, get rid of them. And this is going to be a general purpose country. What I want to do is to make a loop that will run over these values. Let's see a loop in. This is in JavaScript. It's not specifically jQuery. So your typical loop goes for, there's a number of ways of doing this, but let's use an index for var I equals 0, I is less than clist dot length, and then I++. So I'm hoping you've all seen loops in other languages, and this is very similar. So this looks just like that. Take this, copy it, and not copy it, I'm going to cut it. So cut that and paste it in there and change the indentation. Okay, so I run around my loop. There's 4 things in the loop. I'm pointing with my finger there. 4 things in the loop, so I should go around the loop 4 times and create just what I want. Save that and reload. Fantastic, we've got 4 countries. The bad news is they're all called France and they've all got the same flag. I don't know how the citizens of Greece and South Africa are going to feel about that. Okay, let's not call it France. This is a general country. Let's call it C. Okay, so we're not talking about France in particular. We're talking about the anonymous country C that could be anything. Here's where I'm putting France, and I don't want to put in France every time. What I want to put in is Brazil the first time around, France the second time, Greece the next time, and then South Africa. So I want this to be a different value each time round, depending on the value I. So CList is a list, and it's a list of pairs. So I could say CList square brackets I. Let's try that. Save that and reload. Okay, that's not bad. Can you see it's got BR Brazil? That's because CList I is this the first time round, this the second time round, this the third time round, this the fourth time round. And so that pair, what JavaScript has done is made its best attempt to turn this pair into a string and stick that in. And that's not a bad attempt. It's taken BR and just put them together, taken out the quotes. What I actually wanted was the second component. So this is CList I0 and this is CList I1. So if I put in a 1 there, that should put the countries in excellent. France, Brazil, Greece and South Africa, but they're all still using the French flag. That's not going to work. Let's try and use the same trick for the GIF. So if I copy that and I paste it in there, but I don't want the first component. I don't want the second component. I want the first component. So I want the BR and so forth. Let's put in a 0. Okay, so the source is the CList I, and then take the first component, save that, and reload. I wasn't expecting that to work, to be honest. It seems to have done. How on earth has that worked? It shouldn't have worked because this thing here needs to end in .gif, and that doesn't end in .gif. This damn thing's being too clever. Let's inspect that. That thing there is an image. Its source is BR, and somehow it's magically put the GIF in there. This browser's getting clever every day. I'm going to pause the video and do a quick experiment. Okay, I did an experiment to try and figure out why it was showing the image. I was expecting this to be a broken image because I've given the source wrong. I should be adding in .gif like that. And I didn't put that in, and the image is loaded anyway, so someone somewhere is being clever. I thought it was a browser being clever. It could be jQuery being clever. Don't like it. Reload. Okay, completely broken it. CLS.gif. Let's debug. So F12 to start the debugger. And it's saying uncaught unexpected token dot on line 12. I'm looking for line 12. That's the line I just messed with. Yes, of course it is there. I put the quote in the wrong place, so the quote should go there. So this is the string that will be FR or BR or GR or ZA, and then add, and then this literal .gif to make the image proper. Let's try and reload. Okay, that's working. I know it was working before, but it shouldn't have been working. It had no business working until I put that .gif at the end. Right, so how are we doing? using array of values, we did that. Okay, I didn't do this the way I should have done. I was supposed to use the function create1, and there's a good reason for doing that. I'm going to move stuff around until it looks like that. I want to create a function called create1, and I want to put a random page in place. Alright, so yeah, we've done the first part. Let's put that in place, and the next part is to make this into a quiz. So I'm going to move on to the next part in the next video.